What's going on, guys? Bringing my 2019 NHL mock draft today. Now, I'm only going to be doing the top 15 picks, basically the non-playoff teams. I am going to be doing, though, a second version of this mock draft in a couple months once the playoffs are over. We know where every single team's picking in the first round. So, we'll get right to it, guys. Starting off here with the first overall pick in the draft. For the second time in 3 years, we have the New Jersey Devils again beating out the Colorado Avalanche. And I have them taking Jack Hughes first overall. I have heard some talk about Kakko being a better player. Maybe he's more deserving of being first overall. But literally every single scouting report I've seen has had him ranked number one. He's been number one for over a year now. When they talk about player comparisons, the one he's most similar to is Patrick Kane. So basically a Patrick Kane playing center. It's pretty hard to beat. He's actually playing really well right now as well at the under-18s for USA. His stats this year too have just been insane. So I think, in my opinion, most people's opinion, he is like the undisputed number one overall in this draft. And I think New Jersey getting him is just insane. Whether you put him or Hischier on the wing, the other one you keep in center, and then have Hull on the other wing. The Triple H line, that's just going to be so nasty. Hughes is such a good playmaker. Like, I don't know, I'd probably put him in the center, have Hischier on the wing. Whoever's better at faceoffs, maybe put in the center, but that line is going to be so good. Cannot wait to watch. So, moving on now to number 2, New York Rangers here. So, obviously, they have the easiest pick in the draft. If for some reason New Jersey takes Kakko, they go Hughes, but most likely they'll be taking Kakko. Like I said, a lot of people have been, saying maybe he goes first overall. I don't see it, but then it does tell you that there isn't too much of a difference between him and Hughes. Like, Kakko is definitely in his own class at number 2 overall. I don't really see the Rangers going off the board at number 2. Very good Finnish player. Played in the men's league this year. Did well as a 17-year-old. He's a good two-way player. He can score. He can play defense. He's got good hands. Pretty much the whole package as far as I know. And should be a great pick for the Rangers at number 2. Also, I don't think he mentioned it, but he's a winger. So, just obviously adding to their forward group. Now, next up at number 3. This is really where the draft opens up. Personally, I feel like Chicago could go a number of routes here. I'd say there's about 5 players in my mind that could take number 3. So who it's going to be is anyone's guess. My best guess, I have them taking Dylan Cozens at 3rd overall. From what I've seen, I think the 2 WHL centers, Dylan Cozens and Kirby Dach, have kind of separated themselves as like the 3-4 in this draft. Obviously, even if they are like the 3rd and 4th ranked guys, it doesn't mean a team's not going to like someone else better or for any other reason pick somebody else. But like I said, I had the Blackhawks going with Dylan Cozens. Very good players, played great this year in the WHL. Kind of another really solid player. He's bigger, kind of like a power forward. I want to say like a Ryan Getzlaf type maybe. And I mean, if he ends up being like your 2C behind Taves, you can even move him to the wing. He's both a center and a winger. So if you have Strome in the middle, whatever, just adds to that young forward core in Chicago. Now moving on to number 4, obviously we had the Colorado Avalanche, lost out on all 3 lotteries for the second time. They're the best odds. Obviously, they're in the playoffs right now, so they can't be too upset about it, but still, I do feel a little bit bad for them there. So like I was saying, from what I've read, the 2 WHL centers have kind of separated themselves. So I have the Colorado Avalanche drafting Kirby Dach here at number 4 overall. Just like Cozens, a very good center in the WHL. He's also a bit bigger. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", I honestly forget. He might be even bigger than that. I feel like Dach and Cozens are honestly very similar players. Like, they're both big centers, playing the WHL, put up a bunch of points. Kind of like that pro center you want. I know there's a bunch of people that always, that want that big number 1 center. And I think that's what you're going to be getting between one of these 2 guys. As far as I know, Kirby Dach is exclusively a center, so how good would that be for Colorado, having him as a number 2 center behind Nathan MacKinnon for like the next 10 years? I did think about maybe having Bowen Byram go for there for the Colorado Avalanche, but I feel like with the rise of Kale McCarr, they probably feel like they're good enough on defense, especially with Johnson, Barrie, Girard. And for me, like, they have a 6 first line of forwards, but not much secondary scoring, so Dach obviously really helped them out there. Big question too is Dach going to go 3? Is Cozens going to go 3? I think both those guys will be fighting for that spot. Now, next up though, at number 5, we have the LA Kings. If you guys don't know, the Kings didn't score much this year. They're a slow team, so I had them drafting a Russian, Vasily Podkolzin. Obviously, a very good winger. Scores a lot, sick hands. He's just kind of everything you want in an offensive winger. He's also pretty big, just like Cozens and Dach, can throw the body around. And I think he would just be a good scoring threat for them. And for the majority of the year, he was the undisputed number 3 behind Hughes and Kakko. But pretty lately, like the last couple of months, Cozens and Dach have really just kind of climbed up that draft board. And I feel like he might be still a bit of a risk, even though he hasn't said, like, I'm only going to play in the KHL or anything like that. Still, he is in the KHL, drafting a Russian. There always is a bit of a risk, so I feel like at number 5, though, LA, they need someone who can score. I feel like Podkolzin's definitely worth that risk, and should be really a nice selection there at number 5 for the Kings. Now, moving on here, number 6, I have the Detroit Red Wings, my favorite team, back-to-back years at number 6, drafting Bowen Byram. He's considered by most to be the best defenseman in this class. Now, this is a tough one because, like, obviously, if any of the teams in the top 5, aside from the Devils and the Rangers, who are pretty much confirmed taking Hughes and Kakko, so if Chicago, Colorado, or LA, any of them feel like, you know what, instead of taking the best player available, we're just going to go with the best defenseman. Byram obviously is off the board, but from all the things I've read, Cousins, Doc, and Podkolzin are all in like a slightly higher tier than Byram, which honestly I'm not upset about it at all, as Detroit needs a defenseman. So in regards to this pick, Bowen Byram, like I said, I had them taking Hughes last year. We need a defenseman still. We took Zadina instead, and Byram's the best defenseman in this class. Could very well turn out to be a #1 defenseman in the NHL. We have Cholowski, we have Hronek, we have a couple young defensemen. Most of them are older though. You got Cronwall, Daly, Erickson. There's a lot of old guys in our defense. It's not too good. We need some young players, and we need a young player that can actually play a lot of minutes. So I think Byram would be perfect for Detroit. It's kind of what I think is going to happen / what I really want to happen at number 6. So I mean, fingers crossed that works out for us. Now, next year at number 7, we have the Buffalo Sabres. Can't believe they're picking this high. Like, they look so good in the first half of the year. So what I think now, honestly, starting with number 7, there's going to be a run of American players, and Buffalo's going to have their pick of the crop, and I think the best one available is Alex Turcotte. A very good all-around player, could score a ton, good playmaker, good defensively, good skater, kind of like the entire package. Honestly, like that American U.S. development team this year is just so stacked. So I think it's going to be a run right now. Buffalo gets the first one with Alex Turcotte, and I've seen him projected as high as number 3 in this draft, so I have him a bit later than some people. I've also seen him as late as like a 10 pick, so tough to say, but without a doubt, a very good player, and I think if Buffalo gets him at 7, just even adds to that forward group. Was thinking maybe they go for a defenseman, but taking Dahlin last year, just traded for Montour, still have rest of the line, and I feel like they probably want to add some forwards behind Eichel, give them some help. Now next up here at number 8, we have the Edmonton Oilers. Again, top 10 pick. They need to help McDavid. Their defense, it could use some work too, but I think Caleb Jones, Ethan Bear, both good young defensemen. They need to help McDavid's the big thing, so I have them getting a guy that can score. That's Trevor Zegras. Just like Turcotte on that U.S. development team. Very good skater, really good hands, can shoot. Again, they need someone that can score, and I feel like Zegras does that. He's also decent size too, says like, he kind of plays a bit of a gritty game, so out west, I think you need that more than out east, and I think honestly Zegras is a very good pick there for the Oilers. At number 8, hopefully give McDavid, Draisaitl, and even Nuge some help. And moving on now, at number 9, we have the Anaheim Ducks, and speaking of scoring, if you guys didn't know, the Ducks were last in the league in scoring this year, didn't even have 200 total goals for, I believe it was 199. You guys will see on screen, I think I'm right about that. So for me, personally, I think the best pick for them would be Cole Caulfield. All the dude does is score. He's insane. And just like Jack Hughes, he is lighting up the under-18 tournament right now for the USA. 7 goals in 2 games. Absolutely unreal. Thing is, he's like 5'7", and if you guys don't know, the Ducks GM, Bob Murray, I feel like he's a really old-school GM. I could be wrong about this, but I feel like Bob Murray would just refuse to draft a guy 5'7", with a top 10 pick. I just think he won't do it, so instead, I think he's going to take Matthew Boldy, who some feel is a better all-around player than Cole Caulfield. He probably is a better all-around player, but the Ducks need scoring, and Caulfield might be the best pure scorer in this draft. But still, in regards to Matthew Boldy, very good as well. He's also having a great under-18 tournament right now. He's got like 7 points or something through 2 games. Obviously, he's a bit more of a two-way player than Caulfield, but can still score in his own right. He's actually more of a playmaker, I think, than a scorer, but obviously still going to help them put up points. Bigger, obviously, than Caulfield. Better two-way game. I think he's a bit more of a better playmaker. Caulfield's just an insane sniper. I think Caulfield's a bit faster as well. But Boldy, like I said, very good player. Again, the American team this year is just insane. So many top prospects can come from there. And speaking of Caulfield, though, next up at number 10, I have the Vancouver Canucks taking Cole Caulfield. I feel like Jim Benning's not going to let this guy slip anymore and pull the trigger on him. He's another guy who I've seen ranked all over the place. I don't think I've seen him ranked higher than like 8 or 9, but I've seen him ranked as low as like 25, although he has been moving up a lot lately. Again, probably just the best pure scorer in this class. Like all the dude does is score. And Vancouver, they have Peterson as their first-line center, who's been just setting up Besser like crazy this year. Imagine you put Caulfield on the other wing. Like, that could be such a dangerous line for the next 10-plus years. It would be so deadly. I'd hate to play against that. So I think Canucks, they take that risk, and they go with Cole Caulfield. And I think, honestly, it'll pay off for them. Now, next up, number 11 here. This was a tough pick because I don't really know what Philly needs here. All the Americans are off the board. So I have them taking Philip Broberg. Some people have him as the second best defenseman. Others have Soderstrom. We're going to go with Broberg here. I feel like Soderstrom's more offensive. They kind of have that already in Ghost. Broberg, more of an all-around defenseman. Obviously, Philly's defense needs a bit of work, and I feel like if he's what he's supposed to be, he's just kind of like this all-around big two-way defenseman, does everything. Not the best scorer, but, he's just the total complete package of defenseman. I think he would really help Philly, obviously, on their back end, and should be a solid pick, too, at number 11. I've also seen him ranked even higher than that, but I feel like at 11, that's honestly really good value for the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, next up here at number 12, we have the Minnesota Wild. I'm going to have them taking Peyton Krebs. This is a little bit late for Krebs, although he's been all over the place as well. I think the Americans are better than Krebs, in my opinion. Krebs also in the WHL, just like Cousins and Doc. Can play center or wing. I'm not really sure which one's. Probably in the NHL end up being a winger just because he's not as big. But very good playmaker, very fast. I think, Minnesota's obviously going for those more skilled players. You saw that with the trade they made for Fiala. Obviously got younger, got fast with Fiala. Same thing applies to the Charlie Coyle trade. They brought in Ryan Donato. He's a younger player, faster player. I think that's kind of the route they're going. I think Peyton Krebs would honestly fit that perfectly. Now, is he still going to be on the board at number 12? We'll have to wait and see, but if he is, I think it's a very good pick for the Wild. Next up here, number 13, with the Florida Panthers. And we have a trade to announce. The Florida Panthers are going to drop back in the draft, and actually jumping up in the draft is the Ottawa Senators. If you guys didn't know, obviously they should be picking 4th overall, trade that first pick to Colorado. They're going to have a late first-round pick. Depends how far the Columbus Blue Jackets actually make it in these playoffs. Could be as late as 31 if they win the Cup, or if they're out in the next round, it would only be like, I think, an early 20s pick. So we're not sure where they're going to be picking. Let's just say they have a bunch of seconds and thirds. They trade their first plus a second, next year's thirds, whatever it costs, to move up with Florida. I feel like they want to make a bigger splash in this draft than they could just using Columbus pick. And the reason Florida does this is because I think they want to compete right now. Like, they just hired Quenneville to be their head coach. I feel like Joel Quenneville is not a coach who'd be down for a rebuild. So Florida clearly wants to compete now. They also have a ton of cap space. And I think to help try to bring in some more players, aside from just free agency, they would like, a couple extra picks. Second round pick they get back from Ottawa. They can then flip for an NHL ready player. So I think the trade would work out for both teams as well. The one thing I think Florida needs more than anything is a young goalie to build around for the future. And Spencer Knight, if you guys don't know him, is the top goalie prospect in the draft. So I feel like they can trade back to the Senators, wherever that pick happens to be, and still get their guy in Spencer Knight, as well as acquire some, extra picks used for trades for some NHL players, or maybe just keep the picks. It doesn't matter. I think it'd be a good trade for both teams. Now, with that pick, I think the Ottawa Senators take Victor Soderstrom. Like I mentioned before, some people have Soderstrom ranked as the second best defenseman in this class. Others have him at third. Either way, I think it's a very solid pick for the Senators. He's a good offensive defenseman, very good skater, he's right-handed, so could play him on the top pair with Shabbat for years to come. Obviously, too, they still have Branstrom from the Stone trade, so those three kind of leading your top 6 decor for the next 15 years or whatever. They're still all very young. Future might actually start to turn around here in Ottawa. Obviously, though, they have to go up, a second, maybe 2 seconds, maybe a second, a third to move up and make this pick. Obviously, it would also depend kind of where the Blue Jackets pick is. If it's like 21, it's going to cost a lot less to move up than if it's 31. But I think it would honestly be wise for them to do that. They need some high-level talent, not something, but somebody to get like in the late first round, unless, of course, you get really lucky. So, trade will work out for both teams. Now, next up, number 14, we have the Arizona Coyotes. Last year, shocked everybody. Took Barrett Hayton 5th overall. Zadina still on the board. Quinn Hughes still on the board. Wallstrom, Buckvis, tons of other guys, all ranked much higher. This year, I don't think they go off the board as much, but do take a bit of a high-risk, high-reward play. And I think they're going to take Alex Newhook here. Now, Newhook's a very good player, but he plays in the BCHL, so I feel like it's a bit harder to kind of gauge his talent level. In the BCHL, he's absolutely torn it up. I think he's averaging like 2 points a game, something like 102 points in 52 games or whatever. So the dude can score. He's really good offensively. He can score. He can make passes, make plays. He's not the smallest either. I think he's like 6 foot, maybe 6'1". So just kind of like your prototypical center, decent defensively, very good offensively. The big question I think for him is just, how much better is he than everyone else in the BCHL? So does that make his stats inflated and whatnot? But honestly, at 14, I think it's a really good value pick for them. And again, they seem to like to, take risks or whatever. So I think Arizona taking Newhook there is a great pick, honestly. And finally, at number 15 here, the Montreal Canadiens. Now, this was a tough one. I wasn't really sure where to go here, but I feel like if at number 15, Raphael Lavoie is still on the board, Montreal is not going to be able to help themselves here, and they're going to have to take Lavoie. Obviously, a French-Canadian, very good player, too. I've seen him ranked as high as, I think 5 this year at certain points. Kind of slipped a bit, then came back up a bit. He's having a very good playoff, though, for the Mooseheads, which is definitely helping his draft stock. And again, I feel like Canadians are not going to be able to help themselves. So there's a really good French-Canadian available at 15. I feel like they're going to take him. Personally, I think they need a defenseman more. If I was their GM, I'd probably go with Thomas Harley or Cam York. Both left-handed defensemen, which they honestly need more than a righty. Like, they already have Weber, Petrie, Juleson all down the right side. Harley's a bit more of an all-around defenseman. York's a bit more offensive, but yeah, for me, they need a left-handed defenseman more than anything, but you are supposed to just take the best player available in the draft, which honestly might be Lavoie, which is why I think if he is the best player available at that point, and he's a French-Canadian, like, Montreal is going to pull the trigger 100%. So I do think he's a good pick for Montreal number 15, but if I was now to be making sure I get a defenseman in the next round, just to kind of make sure I cover all my bases, but that is it, guys, for the 15 picks there. I'm sure a lot of you probably have differing opinions. A lot can change in the next couple months leading up to the draft. I know last year I think I had like Kotkaniemi at 15, and of course he ended up going 3rd overall, so you never know like whose draft stock's going to rise crazy at any point, really, even after they're done playing. So should be interesting to see. Like I said, once the playoffs are all done, I'm going to do like a second version of this with all 31 teams. I'll predict the entire first round, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a thumbs up. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.